Bam! And we are live. This is our first episode, and my voice is all crackly. What's up? I'm Mr. SoCal Honey Badger, but I'm not alone. Gentlemen, would you like to say hello?
I am just Dave. You can find me on Twitch, and I'm pretty chill as fuck. Got the chill streams, but I'm interested to talk about wrestling today. This is something that's been in the works for a while now, so finally glad it's happening.
And I'm Ryan Stone. You could find me at Twitter at Ryan Stone SD. Oh man, I love wrestling, man. I actually I was an indie wrestler for about 10 years, and it's the greatest sport in the world.
Greatest sport in the world. It's art. Cannot
Absolutely.
everybody do it? I'm like it's art.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that was the whole point. Like, I was like, man, people have asked me to do wrestling content, and I was like, I'm not doing any wrestling content until I can get Ryan Stone up in here, man.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he was telling me that for a while. I was just like, hey, I'm down to wait. This is a pretty big deal.
Right?
Oh man, I'm excited, man. I love talking wrestling. I could talk wrestling for hours and hours. My wife and I just sit there and debate wrestling at night. It's a lot of fun, man. I love this stuff.
Nice.
Right, me and Ryan Stone, we grew up as little children,
Yeah.
watching wrestling. I think as a good introduction, for everybody, give us the match that made you a lifelong fan. I was talking about talking about this with Ryan Stone the other day, and so I kind of gave him my match. But you guys go ahead. Go ahead first, Dave. The match that made after that you could point back to and say that's the match that made me a lifelong fan.
Right. I'm not gonna lie. I think what the match that really made me a long time wrestling fan was Bret Hart versus Steve Austin. That match just completely just changed the way I looked at wrestling. I was just like, wow,
Which one
this thing.
Because there were three.
The one at WrestleMania 13.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
I know they had like three.
that's the most known one, man. I mean, Survivor Series was good. Nothing compares to the Mania 13. That's a very solid choice.
Appreciate it. I definitely think that's like one of the best matches of all time, without a doubt. And it was a double turn after the match, so it made it even more better.
Oh man, yeah, that match was perfect, bell to bell, perfect, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I agree. Highly agree.
It was one of the few bangers we got out of Stone Cold in the WWF before he got hurt.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
Because after that, he started the Owen feud, and that was when he got hurt. So, that was peak Austin, and he was never going to ever touch that performance again.
True. That is true. Well, I just think after he messed up his neck, it was tough to recover from that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, and when I say he wasn't going to touch that performance again, I mean physically. Because obviously his matches with The Rock, way overshadowed what eventually,
Oh,
yeah.
It's kind of hard not to when it's the two biggest stars in the era at that time, potentially of all time. I mean, come on.
They got cheered in any city they went to. It didn't matter. That was, oh yeah, good times.
Yeah, what about you, Ryan? What was your match?
You know what? I don't have a match.
There's too many. I'm not gonna lie. There is too many.
I have an event.
Oh, he's got a card.
I have an event.
Okay.
Oh.
And it's not even the strongest card. It was the first WrestleMania I ever saw, and it was WrestleMania 7. Hogan versus Slaughter on top. You had the middle. You had Brett and Anvil versus the Nasty Boys for the tag belts, where the Nasties won. And I'm pretty sure that was the last match of the Hart Foundation. Oh man, you had a Savage and Warrior career-ending match where Elizabeth showed up at the very end. I mean that event. Well, it may not be the strongest one. Like I said, that was the first Mania I saw. I had only been watching wrestling about 3 months at that time.
Right.
I watched that. It was shortly after my 7th birthday or 8th birthday, 91, 8th. And I had the foam plastic WWF championship around my waist watching Hulk Hogan beat Sergeant Slaughter. I was the biggest kid mark of Hogan in the world. Never stopped. That was the event that cemented it for me for the rest of my life.
Nice, man. Very solid. Yeah, WrestleMania 7 was a crazy event. I definitely agree.
Right.
You know, there were some odd matches in there. I mean, you had Bulldog and Warlord, the battle with the full Nelsons. I mean, it wasn't, you know, a 5-star barn burner. I
Yeah,
had fun watching that show from
Dude,
top to bottom.
that's
I tried to get tickets. I tried to get tickets like 2 weeks before, and my parents were going to get them for me for my birthday, and sold out.
dang, and it's funny because like
sold
that.
out.
But think about that. Every show is somebody's first show. And that's notorious for being the worst WrestleMania ever. And that was your first show, right? And
That's
that was
crazy.
like
Right.
what started your path. Like, you know, where like Edge has this story of fucking watching Hogan versus Warrior. And you're like, yeah, I got the one that was changed buildings because people were going to blow it up.
You know what the rumor is? That they actually changed buildings because the ticket on sale did not do well. Like
Really?
that's what's coming out afterwards. Like there may not have been very many threats, but maybe they weren't going to get 100,000 people in the LA Coliseum.
Dude,
We'll put
Right.
15,000 in the LA Sports Arena.
Dude, that just goes to show WWF did it first, man. Like, you see Marvel Comics and they're trying to turn Captain America into a bad guy, and it's like no one wants to see an evil Captain America. Like,
No,
nobody
definitely not.
wanted evil Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter. Nobody wanted
I
that.
loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, you're
I
a
loved
Hogan
won the
mark. You
title off
wanted...
Warrior with the cheap shit from Macho Man. Oh man, I loved it.
Oh, wasn't that the match made in hell, Warrior and Hogan versus Slaughter, Mustafa, and Iron Sheik?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was at SummerSlam '91. Yeah, that was the match made in hell and the match made in heaven. I used to have that entire TV promo memorized, and I would talk like Vince McMahon. It's the match made in heaven. It's the match made in hell. It's SummerSlam.
Dude, it's
Still
What a
remember that one.
maneuver! That's the what a maneuver! That's the classic commentary right there.
That is.
boom shakalaka.
Oh god, that WrestleMania arcade game commentary.
Oh,
Oh, that was so
WrestleMania
bad.
Arcade.
But
You know what's fun? You
so
know what's
funny.
interesting about that? I just got that game not that long ago too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I picked it up. I was like, oh yeah, this game definitely a classic for me. It's crazy. The controls are not easy though. Playing
No.
that game, like, oh, it was tough. It was definitely
Badger and I would, when that game finally came out on consoles, we each had different consoles. I think he had it on Super Nintendo and I had it on Sega.
nice.
So he didn't have all the characters. I had, I think, 2 extras. But there was this tips and tricks video that you could go rent at the video store. Him and I would rent this and just watch, and it had all like the combos that you could do, and it was told to you by the wrestlers. So you had like Razor Ramon. All right, you want to do my combo? It's down, right, punch, super punch. You know,
Super punch.
and Badger would just mimic that the whole time. I didn't remember how old we were at that time, but that we would watch that video over and over. I think we even dubbed it on a VHS. I think we even dubbed it on a VHS and watched it just constantly.
Dude, just hearing VHS, a lot of people will be like, "What is that?" Like a lot of
Yeah,
kids.
no kidding. Badger and I were actually talking about this a couple days ago when he was. Oh, he didn't get over his. He didn't talk about his match yet.
No,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
we were talking about his match, and we started talking about my VHS collection. I had a lot of live pay-per-view recordings of the WWF stuff from
nice.
like '91 all the way to whenever VHS stopped being a thing, 2001-ish.
2001, nice.
Yeah, and
think they
I
were still
lost it
going
all in a
strong.
house fire.
Think they were
Yeah, I
still going
lost it
pretty
all in a
strong.
house fire, man. But we were talking about it and
no.
how every weekend when we would hang out, I would bring tapes over to his house, or he'd come over to mine, and we would just watch tapes over and over and over again.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Dude,
That was the network before the network.
Right?
Literally, the glory days.
Coliseum
Recording
Home
tapes.
Video was the network
Yep.
before the network. Yeah, so
Oh, yep.
okay. So my match, I was just talking with Ryan Stone the other day. And we were me and the missus, we were watching I think we were watching Rampage. And she was, "Oh no, you know what? We were watching WWE. I think I was watching like their most recent pay-per-view or something." And the match that was going on, it was like Drew McIntyre and somebody. It was pretty good. It wasn't a bad match, But she had commented how she doesn't really like that style of like them being really tired and like overselling like for 20 minutes, like both guys laying on the mat, out of breath, like crawling to each other. She's like, come on, like, nah, like that shit's fucking boring. Like, so let's move this along. And I was like, no. Because the match that made me a fucking believer in pro wrestling, the match that made me like a lifelong fan, was WrestleMania 8, Macho Man versus Flair. The quasi main event, right? Quasi main event.
The co-main event.
Co-main event.
Like that match alone made me a fucking believer in wrestling. Like that shit made me like a full on like everything.
That was
is
a
all
solid
about
match though.
wrestling.
Flair versus Savage. Oh yeah, that was a solid match.
Yeah, and so the reason why that came up is like I was telling my wife, I was like, no, like selling on the ground for like 5 minutes to show how tired and beat up you are can enhance the match if it's done right. And I said Savage and Flair did it perfectly, because Savage spent that whole match just selling, and it wasn't even big bumps. Like he took a couple of suplexes, but it wasn't anything like he wasn't taking power bombs or anything. But it all stemmed from him taking one floor bump, right? He takes one floor bump and he's basically just crawling on the ground the rest of the match. And every punch, every little elbow had you teasing that comeback, and you're on the edge of your seat. Every little tiny move. It wasn't even, and Macho was known as kind of a high flyer in those days, but it wasn't his high flying moves that really got you going in that match. It was the tired fucking breathing hard shit. And I tell you what, I went back and we watched that match, and the missus, she was on the edge of her seat. She was involved. She was, when Miss Elizabeth ran out, she was like, go get him, girl. Go get him. And I was like, yeah, see, that's the masterfulness, and that's to me. And I remember, because when I watched that match as a kid, right, on one of those VHSs at Ryan's house, right? Like that match made me a believer. I was like, Macho Man, you go get your woman, man. Ric Flair's a piece of shit, and don't you take it from this man.
But how pissed were you that Flair and Perfect didn't show the naked picture of Elizabeth? I was waiting. I was waiting. So after Badger told me that was his favorite match, the next day I went back and watched it. Of course, 30 years later, still delivers. Still delivers. That match was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And once Savage started selling his leg when Flair was oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Masterful. Masterful.
Because Flair
I love the promo after where he just hands the belt to Elizabeth. Take this and go. And then he continues cutting a promo. Oh my God. So good.
Yeah. Macho was magnificent, dude. And Flair, like the atomic drop on the knee, like that's a typical Flair spot. Like he does that.
Oh, the atomic drop on the knee.
But the thing is, like, it's been done to death. It's in every Flair match. But when he did it to Macho Man after Mr. Perfect hit him in the knee with a chair, like,
oh, that fell.
Yeah, you were like, yo,
yes.
Macho Man's not gonna walk. Ric Flair lifted him over his head and broke his knees.
Oh man, yeah, when he hit, because a lot of people sold that. Like if you watch like a Rick Rude take an atomic drop cell, I mean he puckers up like he's about to shit his pants and he's clenching tight. And when he hit, he took that atomic drop and was just like down to the ground. Oh, it was a great match. I love that match, so good. And I hadn't watched that. I haven't watched that match since I was a child. And what's funny is like he mentioned how we would watch that from my VHS collection. I didn't have the full recording, so I don't know what happened. I can't remember when I was 9. And for some reason, my VHS tape always started right when the bell rang for the first match, which was Shawn Michaels and Tito Santana. I never saw the whole opening of the show. I don't know what happened. So when I watched it the other day on the network, that was the first time in 30 years I've actually seen the intro, the national anthem, and Shawn and Tito making their entrances. I thought that was pretty fun.
Nice.
I don't remember what happened. But my VHS tape never had it. I didn't care about that as a kid. Now, I'd be upset if I didn't have the full show.
Right, but we got Peacock now, so like we could watch everything.
What do you think about the network on Peacock? compared to what it was before.
I'm not gonna lie. I like the original network 1,000 times more. Oh, it
The
was so
interface for Peacock
organized.
is awful.
It's
Exactly. It was
awful. It
easy to
was so
find.
Here's the
exactly.
deal, though. Here's okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. But I do actually believe this. Peacock sucks, but like compared to how it was when it launched and how quickly they got it up to where it is and how they're constantly improving it, because you gotta believe NBC basically invested their survival on Peacock. So like,
Sure.
as shitty as it is, I imagine by this time next year it's gonna be better than what the network was. And my big hope is that they add fucking search a fucking match, because it was so hard. Like, you have to have your cell phone next to you if you're like, oh yeah, hey, like, I have a new friend I want to introduce to wrestling. Let me go get fucking Hell in a Cell 1. And then you're like, fuck, was that King of the Ring? Was that Bad Blood? What was the year? Is it 98? Oh, fuck, dude, where's the fucking Google? Whereas, why can't I just type Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in the Cell? Bam! There's only like
Bam,
two
right
of
there.
those, right?
Right.
And if they add that to Peacock, then instantly I like Peacock better than the network. For now, neither
The
of
network
those
could do that, though.
They could.
The
but
network
they
was able to
haven't.
search individual matches.
Yeah, but you couldn't find them like that, dude. Because I typed that in,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting documentaries and all. Undertaker versus Mankind, Hell in a Cell.
Oh, you'll get every instance of it. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
see it if it's in some, best of the Attitude Era documentary or whatever. You would have seen it in the network, but no, you could have searched individual matches. That's what I want to do. I want to go back and watch the Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa feud, but I want to
That
watch,
would be
the
cool.
promos. I want to watch the promos, the matches. I don't need to watch the full NXT shows, the takeovers. I just want to watch what involved them. Can't do that on Peacock. Can't.
Well, you couldn't do
Dang.
that on the network either. You got to go and
Yeah.
still Google and pull up Wikipedia and get watch lists. You're like, oh, okay, Mega Powers explode, and then you'll find an entire watch list of every promo and thing that built into it. And it just sucks because, like, I think now, 20 years after, like, AOL and WWE getting involved in the internet before really anybody else, 20 years later now we're starting to have an appreciation for the narratives in wrestling, whereas back in the day we used to think that shit was real. And, like, let's not kid ourselves, dude. In 1993, you thought that shit was real. Okay, everybody did. There's grown people, right?
Yeah.
When I showed that whole Macho Man versus Ric Flair to my wife right now, right? And she's like, holy shit, the crowd is going insane off of, like, a punch. And I'm like, yeah, because we believed it was a real punch.
Go back and show her Warrior and Savage from WrestleMania 7. And when Elizabeth comes back, show her that. Show her the fans crying as Macho and Elizabeth hugged.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
I remember that. Yeah.
You know?
I think that's what you need to show people. You need to show people that when because I mean, come on, we're calling this podcast play fighting, but let's be honest. There's moments that wrestling is 100% real, and it's not real in terms of the physicality. It's real in what's right in your heart, man. You feel that. You feel those moments. That's what I love about wrestling. I am not afraid to say it. When Taker folded up his jacket and his gloves at Mania 33 after his match with Roman, my wife looked at me and was like, "Are you crying?" Absolutely, I'm crying. And the biggest reason for me was that was the last bit of my childhood walking out for what I thought was the last time.
I could just picture your face all scrunched up.
No, I wasn't talking like that. It was, I had tears streaming. That was no joke. But that's how I feel, man. Like when wrestling is real, oh God, there's nothing better. And I always tell people, if someone ever asks me, what should I show somebody who's never watched wrestling? You could show them the Okada Omega matches. You could find a Flair Steamboat match. But I'm going to tell you, you want to watch something that's more recent, maybe not as recent as Okada Omega, but you want to show something that's pretty recent that will get you in the feels. Sasha Banks, Bayley, TakeOver Brooklyn, the very first one.
Yeah.
You want a match that makes you feel something. The build-up, the hype for that match. Bayley's build-up as her character building up into winning the title. And then that final blow-off. I mean, That's when wrestling is perfect.
That's,
and nothing.
That is true.
That's
nothing
better than my
in the world.
suggestion.
And people be thinking it's easy, dude. It's actually not, man. It's to get people invested into your character. That takes a lot of work. Like,
oh yeah,
it takes something that the fans see of themselves in someone. Bailey's character at that time was the whole fangirl. Like, I remember she cut a promo with Dusty Rhodes, and she's like, "Oh, I'm talking to Dusty Rhodes," and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." You know, it's someone who they're making her, and I know she was a fan in real life, but you know, they're putting it on television. I mean, how many little kids probably saw that and went, "I would do the same thing."
Fuck,
I know I would have been, as a 38-year-old man, I would have done the same thing.
I'd be crying if I met
Dusty.
Dusty.
That's where she connected with everybody, and the bullying that Sasha did to her, you know, and how everyone just said, "Oh, you know, everyone's going to turn on you. No one's your friend." The video package, to the match, to the finish, to the post match, there is nothing in that I've seen since that has been that perfect for everything. We've seen great matches, we've seen great stories, but when it came for the characters and the execution of everything from beginning to end, I think that was one of the best things that wrestling has ever produced.
See, and I would have suggested Nick Gage versus Minoru Suzuki, but I like yours better. It's like, oh, you want to learn about wrestling? Do you also like pizza?
hey, that's true.
You know, and I'll be honest, I haven't finished that match yet. I started it, but I didn't make it all the way through. I think I fell asleep. I turned it on too late, and I haven't gone back to finish it yet. I'm gonna restart it up here, hopefully the next day or two.
Ooh, right?
No, I've really gotten into the GCW stuff lately. I need to watch more of it.
Oh yeah.
I was watching a little bit. Zack Ryder, or what is it, Matt Cardona?
Matt Cardona, yeah.
Yeah. They yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if he's a heel. I'm pretty sure they hate him though. I think he is a heel there. Like,
he's a Kurt Angle.
I may not be a huge fan of Matt Cardona, but I'm gonna say he's had the biggest impacts from getting released from WWE over the last year. I mean, he's been everywhere, and on top of that, like, GCW, it's not his cup of tea. But he went there and did a death match with Nick Gage.
Yeah. Most people wouldn't. You know what I mean? They're thinking like a death match. Yeah, that'll be. Yeah, well, right.
Dude, I got it.
And the way he came in, and oh man, I think the way he's marketed himself over the last year, just and with Impact, and he did the stuff with AEW last year.
Right.
No, I think he's been one of the bright spots of professional wrestling, definitely in the pandemic and coming out of it. I don't think anybody in that span has done the promotion of themselves as much as he has. Now, if he had signed a full-time deal with AEW, it'd be a different story. I think, like, when you look at someone like a Miro, who I absolutely love, and you see what he's done, and I'll say Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona has made a little bit bigger of a name, but it's because he has that freedom to go other places. Him getting announced for GCW was insane to me. I was like, wait, what?
The hype bro is gonna get cut.
The hype bro, right?
But man, he's lived up to it. And man, when he did that show where he showed up wearing the GCW championship and wearing the Vince McMahon sweatsuit.
ECW Vince McMahon.
Oh my god, I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
I just loved when he started calling him the GCW universe. I thought that was so fucking excellent. I was like, oh my god. I was mad I never thought of that. That was what got me. I wasn't even mad because it was heel heat. I was mad that was so brilliant and I didn't think of it first.
I thought it was great that he got a custom title made after he won the GCW title and it said GCW Universal Championship, and it was a spinner. Like, he knows what he's doing. He is poking that bear, and he knows those fans are going to get pissed. And I'm here all for it. That's awesome.
I give him props though, man. Hey, he's doing stuff that a lot of people couldn't. You know, I give him props. Like,
Well, he's found a way to work the smart fans, and I love it
True.
whenever the smart fans get fucking taken for a ride because they're always so like, oh man, I know
Serious.
everything about wrestling, and
Yeah.
like the only
Right.
thing that's
Yeah.
good in wrestling is like Tanahashi's last fucking match in a fucking Tokyo high school gym that he did on a side project, like those kind of like wrestling fans. And it's like when Matt Cardona shows up to GCW, like the most hardcore of the hardcore fans, like they're up there. They're like the, that region's version of PWG. Like they're fucking animals, right? And
Right.
Matt Cardona comes in there and he starts using the corporate lines. He starts using the WWE PR speak, but like in favor of GCW. Like, I'm going to go out and entertain the GCW universe. Cheer me on. Hashtag retweet. And I'm just like, this guy fucking gets it, man. He's going to work these
So much.
motherfuckers so bad.
Yes.
They're going to
Right,
throw
right.
trash at this motherfucker.
Think
And I
about it.
love how they just go through the crowd. I like when you watch like Nick Gage's entrance and the crowd is just hounding him. I fucking love that. And the fact that Cardona's going through here and he's just double burdened it up all the way through. Just like you said it right, Badger. He is like what Kurt Angle was. You're booing him, you're saying you suck, but you think it's amazing.
Well, I said he was a Kurt Angle in that he's the baby face that thinks he's a baby face, but everybody hates
Right,
him.
Oh yeah.
Like him and
Right,
Cody
But
Rhodes
I
have
think they
that.
boo him because they know they're supposed to, but I think tongue in cheek they're like, okay, I actually like this shtick. But I'm sure there's people that don't like him being there, but I would guess the majority is probably like, no, I'll boo him, I'll say I hate him, but I kind of like him.
I think he did more to get GCW
definitely
on the
solid.
map than like anybody else recently. Like Nick
Do you
Gage.
think they'd be working? Do you think they'd be? Well, I don't know. John Moxley put a lot of notice on them too, but Cardona was there first.
True.
Do you
Well,
think
but you
they would be at
expected that.
Hammerstein? Do you think they would have done Hammerstein without Cardona?
I think they would have done Hammerstein without Cardona, but the thing is with Moxley is you expected that. Moxley was a combat zone guy. Like
Yes.
when he goes to GCW to fight Nick Gage, it's like, well, he's John Moxley. This is like fucking Roman Reigns showing up to fight Nick Gage. Like what the fuck,
Right,
Matt
right.
Cardona, the
Right,
action
right.
figure guy, like
Right,
Mr. WWE, Mr. Sports Entertainment is going to GCW to fucking cut
That was
faces
pretty
open.
crazy. That was crazy. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Think about it. When he won the world title, they were throwing bottles at this guy.
Yep.
Literally
Yep.
throwing any type of things they could throw at him. That
It's
was
heat, dude. Nobody
the
gets
heat,
heat
yeah.
no more. I don't consider MJF a fucking heat magnet, dude. People boo him because
No.
they respect, like, oh yeah, he's a good bad guy. Like they booed fucking MJF the way people fucking hated Joffrey fucking Game of Thrones, right? Like, oh
Right.
yeah, I hate the character, but like that kid, he's so gosh darn talented. And that's how
Sure.
people fucking talk about MJF. They're like, well, he's just a gosh darn talented like little heel and boo you evil kid, like rich kid. But Matt
Right.
Cardona got fucking heat, dog.
That's
that
actual
fucking
heat,
Jim
yeah.
Cornette, Ronnie Garvin trying to run out in the back of a fucking U-Haul van to get away from getting stabbed by some back slack jawed yokel. That's fucking heat, dude. Matt Cardona's brought heat back.
right.
I think he did. I think you're right. I think since then, I wouldn't say the heat's died down, but I think he's now getting a little bit of the MJF heat. You
Yeah.
know, where they're like, he's good, and we like the shtick he's doing, but I'm booing him because he's the way he's talking to me. No, that's not how you talk to the GCW fans. We're not WWE. We're not corporate. I think that's where he's getting the heat, and I do agree. I think a lot like MJF, where he's, we respect him. I love MJF, but I'll boo the hell out of him if he comes out.
Yeah.
Well,
True,
yeah,
true.
but you're not booing MJF because you hate him. In
No, I'm
wrestle
booing
speak, you're
MJF
booing him
because
because
I'm
you
supposed
love
to.
him. Well, because you
Yeah.
love him, you want to respect the character work. Yeah, he's the bad guy, and he's good at
Absolutely.
it. So I'm booing him. But when you're booing Matt Cardona, it's not because you respect him as a bad guy wrestler. You're booing Matt Cardona because you really want fucking Nick Gage to light this motherfucker on fire. You want that fucking the gay champion of the world or whoever he's feuding with. You want that gay dude to fucking light Matt Cardona on fire. You're like, light that fucker up. I hate him.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
I was gonna say, speaking of MJF, we gotta talk about AEW. What do you guys think? How do you think they're doing so far?
AEW or just MJF?
Or just AEW in general?
Love it. It's rekindled my love for professional wrestling.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
mean love. I've been watching professional wrestling for 31 years. Never took a break. I watched Raw and SmackDown and NXT every single week, pretty much until last year. And I started not enjoying more than I actually enjoyed. There'd be a couple segments that I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool, but I'd kind of be like, about the rest of the show. I'm on my phone, texting, doing something else. But AEW, since the inception, really got me. And I was watching. I got really into New Japan, probably right after AJ showed up. I got heavy into New Japan. I watched as many shows as I
Oh, yeah,
could.
2015. Oh, yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
era.
And I mean, I still want to go to Japan to see Wrestle Kingdom. And then when the Bucks and Kenny left to go start AEW, I won't say well, the pandemic kind of took me out of New Japan because there was a lot less English commentary. So I didn't get to watch as much as I was before. But AEW took what I really liked about New Japan, and it was just great matches. And now it's every week, and I don't have to go searching for it. I pay for a New Japan World, and to stream it on my television's a pain in the butt. So,
Right.
now it's like, oh, I could find Dynamite on cable television every week, Rampage every week. It rekindled my love for wrestling. It's what, as a 38-year-old man now, wanted wrestling to evolve into. It's what the Ring of Honors would have become if they had a backer like the Khan family.
Right.
It's I think this is the evolution of what ECW kind of started, and then what the indies became in the early 2000s and started growing. AEW is just the continued evolution of all of that, and like I said, it brought me back into, I love watching wrestling all the time.
One thing you said that it reminds you like they kind of brought back the spirit of ECW, but I kind of counter that and say that AEW is giving us what the fans wanted Impact to be. Back when TNA was like almost good, when it was like, dude, you better put the fucking belt on Christopher Daniels right the fuck now, and then they never did.
For the OVA type
Right?
time frame, I'm guessing, yeah.
It was Impact, but they put the belt on Chris Daniels, right? If they were smart, right? Because you look like Bryan Danielson shows up and literally the biggest star in the world as far as wrestling. Like, I would say bigger than CM Punk. CM Punk been out the game, dude. A lot of kids don't know who the fuck he is, but they watched SmackDown last week. So like the biggest star, and if it was Impact, they would have gave him the fucking belt day one. He would have shown up. Kenny Omega would have cheated in a match. Bryan Danielson would have came out and said, no, and now you fight me. And then chair shot, roll up, new champion. Like, but AEW doesn't do that. They're giving us the indie wrestling focused universe, like the super indie we were hoping for, rather than the WWE reject we had been getting.
And that's the hard part, because I do think there is a valid need for established stars. I mean, obviously, look at Jericho, Danielson, Moxley, Miro. You need those established stars to help build your brand. And I remember when All Out happened, and afterwards, after Danielson and Cole both came out, I immediately called it their NWO type moment. And I don't want to like compare it because it wasn't the same, but at the same token, you took established guys and you did something with them that was different and people wanted to see it. And that's what I'm seeing with AEW. But you're not doing that with Hulk Hogan. I mean, if AEW was doing it, they'd be doing that with Sting. You know what I'm saying? They'd be making Sting the top guy, and because that's what TNA did. That's what TNA did during those years. Instead of getting the Chris Sabins, the Alex Shellys, the Chris Daniels, it was Jeff Jarrett, Sting, AJ Styles was up in there, but it was all those retreads from either ex-WCW or WWE guys. And that's where I feel like AEW did something different. And that's why, while it's not, I just feel like it's the evolution of change that ECW started in the 90s that it didn't get to finish. Had ECW continued running, I think what we have with the style of AEW is what ECW would have evolved into, to be honest.
I definitely think that AEW is bringing much needed life into wrestling, though. I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie to you. I
It's
feel
all
like
I watch.
WWE, yeah, like you see how WWE is, man. Like it's just that it hasn't been so great. I'm not gonna be biased about towards them, but it's true. Like
Mhm.
I feel like just the booking has just been terrible the past
See,
like
this
a
is.
lot.
I feel like the way this podcast is going to be going, I'm going to be the contrarian. Because, see, I actually think the WWE is fucking killing it right now. And I think that
Really?
they're one of the best things in wrestling. And, like, I love them and I want them to succeed. And I don't even watch that shit. Right?
Right.
Like, I don't I literally, like, I watched NXT's last takeover with Braun Steiner or Braun Breaker, but I call him Braun Steiner.
Braun Breaker. Yeah.
He's just
it
Braun
looks like
Steiner.
Rick Steiner.
Well, because he's Rick
Yeah.
Steiner's
Rick
son,
son.
man. I love
Oh, it's his son.
I
Yeah,
love the
that's true.
Steiners, man. He's the Steiner's son.
Oh, they
He's
were
always going to be
great.
a Steiner to me.
Man.
But, like, I don't watch WWE television, and I don't really care for it, and I don't know that I'll be watching it regularly anyways. And it's because WWE does something that no one else thought to do and no one else is doing. They're making a children's show. Like, WWE is wrestling for 8-year-olds, and if you watch WWE from the perspective of I'm 8 years old, it's a fucking dope show, dude. Like, as an 8-year-old, I'd have loved fucking watching Roman Reigns just fucking beating people up, and that's why I love WWE. I want them to succeed. I want every 8-year-old to watch WWE, because as a children's show, like, it's 10 times better than half the other. I'd rather my kids watch WWE than, like, what is Steven Universe or Rick and Morty or any of that shit. Like, fucking watch Roman Reigns, like, drive by drop kick somebody. Yeah, and you look at the messages in WWE and the stories and the angles. It's like, oh, Alexa Bliss is bullying Nia Jax for being fat because she's like the pretty cheerleader chick, and it's like people were criticizing, saying it was cringy and stupid and childish, and it's like, yeah,
Real life.
Well, no, it's cringy and stupid and childish because you're 25, asshole. Like, this that match was booked.
Right.
That
No,
book,
I get what you mean.
that was
man.
booked
I get
for
what you mean, like,
12-year-old girls, right? That was booked for
Right.
12-year-old girls in middle school, little fat girls, to be like, hey, little fat girls, if you believe in yourself and you don't let it get you down, you can grow up to be Nia Jax and she's the champion. Isn't that cool? Like, the match wasn't made for you. It wasn't booked for you. So, like, I love WWE and I stand up for what WWE is doing. And if as they do what they're doing, that's only going to strengthen my love for AEW, because AEW does adult wrestling, and they can be more adult because they're not competing with WWE. They don't want children watching their show. They want the 25-year-olds.
No, I made this comparison a while ago to somebody, and when I say I don't like, I started disliking more than I liked, it was exactly your point. It's because it's not supposed to be for the almost 40-year-old man.
No,
I made this point. Do you guys remember a number of years back? I forget when the movies came out, but remember when they rebooted the Ninja Turtles here over the last 5 to 8 years, and it was the Nickelodeon. They're the studio that was behind it, and it was the reboot live action. And I love Ninja Turtles, by far one of my favorite cartoons of all time. I have a Donatello tattoo, if that says anything. That I love Ninja Turtles, and I can't. And people were going, "Oh my god, this movie sucks. You're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate it." And I came out going, "I enjoyed it." And they're like, "Oh my god, why'd you enjoy it?" And I said, "Because it wasn't made for me. You guys are going in there as 30-year-olds expecting Nickelodeon to have a movie catered to your fandom from a movie you watched in 1988.
Yeah.
It's not for you anymore." I'll tell you this. In the movie theater that I was in, there was a scene where all the turtles were beatboxing in an elevator, and people crapped all over it. I looked around that theater when that was happening. The kids, the little 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids were laughing at it. It was for them.
Yeah,
Like, everyone expects these reboots from your childhood to be for you. No, it's to entice your children to watch the movies you loved. Well, that's how I look at it with WWE. Just like you said, it's for those kids. There's a reason it's TV PG.
Exactly.
for the kids.
True. It's basically like they want to give their core audience the same feeling as you did when you were a kid.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's
Exactly.
true.
And not everybody's gonna, enjoy AEW. Yeah, you see kids in the audience, but I go look at, the people that were like, oh, I grew up on the NWA. But you had a more sport-based presented program. Not many kids are going to get interested in that. They love the colors, the flamboyance. They love everything. There's a reason Hogan was most everybody's favorite wrestler. There's a reason. It was the colors. It was the way he talked, the yelling, the his personality, his charisma. That's what drew you in. Yeah, you
Right.
had Flair and all them on the NWA side, but like I said, it was more sport based. It would be like showing New Japan to an 8-year-old today. They may like it, they may not.
Show
It's
them
sport
stardom.
based.
Give the kids stardom or TJPW. I could see little kids getting into Tokyo Joshi.
I'll be honest. I think Japanese women's wrestling is the best women's wrestling on the planet.
Dude, it is the best wrestling on the planet ever since the Jumping Bomb Angels. Like, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
When we were watching Bull Nakano beat the fuck out of Alundra Blaze in middle school, and we're like, holy shit, who are these people? Like, I was instantly a fan of Aja Kong for life. I was like, dude, her finishing move is a backhand. This bitch is bad as fuck. I am a fan.
You know what's crazy? Japanese pro wrestling is completely different, like compared
Mm-hmm.
to any other wrestling out there.
Oh yeah. I want to start going back and watching a lot of the old All Japan and stuff. Like Eddie Kingston talks about it a lot. Those are his, the 4 pillars they talk about of Japanese
The 4
professional wrestling.
pillars.
That's where,
Yeah,
and that's where AEW stole that from. They completely stole it from the 4 pillars of Japanese wrestling. But I want to go back and watch those old Japanese matches, Kawada, Misawa. I want to go back and check that out. I missed a lot of it. I mean, Anthony or Badger could say how we got into Japanese wrestling through Hayabusa, and it was actually from an old WCW video game where he was called Hannibal, and we're like, who is this guy? Then we see some Japanese video, and I'm like, hey, Hannibal's this guy Hayabusa. He's real. And we started watching old FMW stuff. That's how we got into it. But we never got into the All Japan stuff at the time. And it was so hard for us to find FMW tapes. So hard to find those.
Didn't they have a tag match in ECW against Sabu and RVD, right?
Yeah.
Heatwave 1998. It was Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki, or Hakushi was his WWF name.
And that's like the one that's noted as ECW's like best pay-per-view ever. Like everybody hands down of the ECW era, the original era, everybody says that was the best pay-per-view. And I'm not saying that it's because of that match. I'm just saying that match was on that card.
People really criticize that match. They don't think that was Hayabusa's best performance, and I'd agree. I think I saw better stuff on his FMW tapes. I really enjoyed his stuff with Mr. Gansuke.
He did a
I didn't care for
Phoenix
Hayabusa once he took the mask off and became just H. I wasn't a fan then of his, but I loved all of his mask stuff. But yeah, no, Heatwave 98 was great.
I just think the fact that they had Prime, Sabu, and RVD in that match, though.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys been following the recent controversy with RVD, Too Cold Scorpio, and Scott Steiner?
What?
Oh, no. I didn't know the controversy.
Too Cold Scorpio is, noted for inventing the 450 splash, and apparently in the 80s. And that's what he's saying, and that's what a lot of people agree. And when Too Cold Scorpio first did the 450 splash, I had never seen anything like that before. So as far as I'm concerned, Too Cold Scorpio invented the 450 splash. But then some footage came out of Rob Van Dam and Sabu in 1980 where Rob Van Dam attempted a 450 and Sabu moved out of the way. So he didn't land the 450. He did a front bump, right? But we know it's basically the same thing. Like Sabu just moved out of the way. But he did a 450 back then before when Too Cold says that he invented it. And then the plot gets even further. Someone found a video from like before RVD's of Scott Steiner doing a 450 splash.
No way.
Yes.
Scott Steiner.
No way.
Scott, Big Papa Pump Steiner, and I fucking saw it, and I was like,
honestly, you know,
shit.
I'm not really too surprised because he could do the Frankenstein. Like, you know what I mean?
standing
Standing.
Frankensteiner. Dude
Exactly.
had
I
hops.
love that Braun Breaker has taken that too.
Yeah. But like, yeah, so Scott Steiner, there's a video of him that allegedly showed him doing the 450 way before Too Cold. So there's this big controversy now of who invented the 450 splash. As far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure it was some luchador in Mexico that no one like in America
Probably.
has paid
Probably.
attention to. Because
So I just found the video of RVD and Sabu were the 450, and RVD's wearing little blue trunks and white boots. This is different. It was from an NEWF show in September 27th, 1991.
wow. But
Yeesh.
that's after Too
Okay.
Cold.
30 years ago.
This is
That's
one of the
after
earliest
when Too
attempts
Cold
at the
said.
450 splash. The other was Scott Steiner in 1987. Wow. He called it the
Wow.
1.5 Superfly.
Yeah.
Okay, there's footage of him doing it. I got to watch this.
I've
I got
already
to see
watched
this.
it. But I will say this. Too Cold says that he invented the 450 splash in 83. He said it was before he went to Japan. And that when he did it in Japan was when it really started taking hold. And all the Japanese people in the dojo started doing it as well. So those taking place in 93 and 87, that does kind of lend credence to Too Cold's claim as inventing the 450 splash. As far as what we know, I still
Right.
stand by some like rando dude in like Mexico probably invented it, and we just never heard of him.
More than likely.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Like
believe that.
80% of the moves that we like in wrestling today came from like Eddie Guerrero's dad. Like you're like he invented the camel clutch and this and that, and he invented the frog splash, and it's like, dude, I just thought Eddie did it because he liked it.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, that and you know what?
that's cool. I'd never seen Scott do a 450. Wow,
I
Doesn't
would.
Yeah,
surprise me. That dude's a
I
freak.
just seen it. Yeah.
That dude's a freak. I actually have a personal story about Rick Steiner.
Go for it. I gotta hear
Really?
this.
So
All
a
for
few
it.
years ago, when I was still wrestling at the time, there was a casino in Northern California called Calusa. We did about 3 shows there. I wasn't a part of the booking folks. That was a gentleman named Jerry Gray, and he would book all the shows for like some of like fairs. So like the San Diego County Fair, there's wrestling every July 4th. It's booked by Jerry Gray. I did a lot of cool things when I was wrestling, and it was all because I knew people and I was in the right spot at the right time. So my buddy, who runs a company called SoCal Pro Wrestling out of Southern California, obviously, uh, he rented the ring. So we drove up with the ring from San Diego all the way. This place is about an hour past Sacramento. I don't know why they just didn't rent a ring from someone in Sacramento, but he used my friend's ring for the shows at the San Diego County Fair. So he would do that. And if Jeff brought guys, they guys would get booked, which I thought was really cool. Well, as with typical indie shows, a lot of times you'll find Doink the Clown. And it's not Matt. It wasn't Matt Bourne, or it wasn't. I forget the gentleman that took over after Matt Bourne, but it wasn't them playing Doink. No, it was a random dude that wrestled earlier on the show, putting on a Doink mask and the Doink gear. And the guy they were using on their first show in Calusa got hurt. And I was about his same size, definitely not in the same shape, but I was about his same size. And so they gave me the Doink outfit. Well, the cool thing about that was I got to main event the shows.
Nice.
So I got to wrestle with guys like Honky Tonk Man, Diamond Dallas Page, Buff Bagwell, and I got to wrestle a match against Rick Steiner. And it was never one-on-one. These were all like either tag or 6-man matches. So, and of course, Jerry Gray being the promoter, he was in the main event. And so it was Jerry Gray, his buddy named Henrik Volkov, and Rick Steiner against me, Honky Tonk Man, and I want to say it was Buff Bagwell in this match. And so, of course, me being the younger guy, I was the bump dummy for the whole match. So I'm the one getting my ass beat for the majority of it, and Rick Steiner's in there with me. So at one point, Rick Steiner throws me out of the ring, and he grabs a chair. Not a steel chair, not what you would expect. No, it's like your expensive relative's dining room chair that doesn't fold, made of wood and has a padded butt. He comes up and he hits me with it, and he didn't hurt me. Nothing he did hurt me.
Right.
But what he did after was set the chair down, do the Hail Hitler sign, and goose step.
God
and
damn.
I'm sitting there selling, looking up, going, why the fuck is Rick Steiner doing this? I don't think there's any footage of it. I don't remember even what the crowd reaction was. It lasted all of like 4 seconds. Anyway, he throws me back in the ring. Match continues. But it stuck with me watching Rick Steiner hail Hitler and do the goose step. I'm sure he's doing it for heat. He seemed like a really nice guy. There were different races of folks on the show. He didn't turn his nose or say anything negative to them. Weird. And this was probably
babyface. I'm thinking like, dude, Rick Steiner's in the tag team.
I was the babyface. Honky Tonk Man, Buff Bagwell, and a guy dressed as Doink. We were the baby faces.
No, that's a heel team, dog.
We were the baby faces.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm booing Honky Tonk Man. If it was Doink and Buff Bagwell, I'd be like, all right, Buff Bagwell. Okay, but Honky Tonk Man, when has he ever been a baby face?
Never.
He's like the Rey Mysterio of heels. That guy can't even get you to cheer for him if he fucking put out his own fire on his own dick.
That sounds about accurate.
We were the baby faces. Every show I ever worked with Honky Tonk Man, he was a baby face.
That's so crazy.
But I think it was also so he could go out and sell merchandise. If he smashed a guitar, he'd go sell it. You know.
All right, I can see that.
I think it was more for the fans buying his merch. But yeah, Rick Steiner goose stepping, very interesting.
That's so
Buff Bagwell, cool as hell though.
Crazy.
Too. They were all cool as hell. Oh man, Honky Tonk Man was cool, except for the time his piss splattered in my face.
You had Honky Tonk's pee on you,
dude. I hurt my back. I hurt my back in a match. And ironically, it was a match with Diamond Dallas Page. I hurt my back during the match. It was so bad I couldn't stand up straight. And so we get to the back. They laid this. They took the top of a cooler, laid it down, and just covered it with ice. And I laid on that for a while. I could not stand up, and I was laying next to a trash can. And Honky Tonk Man walks over and he's holding a red cup, and I'm assuming it's beer in there. And he's like, hey, kid, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, hurting, but I'm all right. And he goes, okay. And he dumps the cup into the trash can. And then there was some splatter out. And I'm like, this motherfucker just pissed in a cup and dumped it in the trash can next to my head.
Damn. Well, I mean, that does sound on brand. He wasn't
trying to splatter it on me. It just so happened to splatter a little bit on me. But I was like, okay, this is fucking disgusting. I think I moved right after that.
Damn.
I'm out of here. I've been like, I gotta get out of here.
Like I said, I wasn't pissed at him, but because I don't think that was his intention,
dude. His shake rattled onto your roll.
Oh God, so gross. As soon as my now my wife, but she was my girlfriend at the time, got us up to the hotel room. Yeah, I washed my face thoroughly. That was gross. It was like maybe a tiny drip or two that hit my face, but 2 little wet drops hit me, and I'm like,
oh no! I feel like this. I've been like, dude,
this motherfucker. I couldn't move though.
Being so lazy or something.
I couldn't stand up. Well, if he wanted to go out, he would have had to go through the crowd to get to the bathroom. That's how it was set up. So I get it. And he had a case of beer in the corner that he was drinking, and I'm sure he had already broken the seal, so it was happening quite constantly. But yeah, that sucked.
Dude, with that, we are going to...
What was I supposed to do? I couldn't stand up and get out of the way.
No, you just got to take it, man. You just got to take it and sell it. Sell it, brother.
I couldn't sell it.
I gotta sell it.
Sell it, brother.
Sell it. I just moved.
I'm saying...
Well, I had my wife help me move because I couldn't do it by myself.
Oh, I'd imagine so. But with that, we should end it on that note. I'm going to title this podcast When Honky Tonk Man Pisses on You. But before we go, let's get shout-outs for where they can follow you elsewhere. What other social medias you guys have?
Oh, I mean, I'm on Twitter too. If you get anybody wants to follow me, he's JUSX Dave. Same as my Twitch. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. A lot of interesting stories.
It's
fun.
only episode 1. What about you, Ryan
All
Stone?
episode 1.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Ryan Stone SD, and that's pretty much the only place you can find me.
Nice. I'm SoCal
Nice.
Honey Badger. I got a Twitter. It's SoCal Honey Badge 1.
Why aren't you just SoCal Honey Badger? I've been meaning to ask you that.
I don't know, man. I don't make the rules, dog. I'm just glad that Twitter hasn't kicked me out yet. I'm waiting on that day that I get kicked out of
Waiting
Twitter.
on the day.
Right.
Waiting.
And I do also have other YouTube channels. Look up SoCal Honey Badger for that. And with that, man, that was episode 1 of our new podcast, Play Fight. And I want to thank my boys, Ryan Stone and Just Dave,
Yes,
for
sir.
stopping
Appreciate you having me,
by.
bro.
First episode
Oh,
of
yeah, man.
hopefully many to come. Thanks for
Hopefully.
dropping in, guys.
Guys, take care.
Later.